Hey guys, Mike here at Royal Productions. Today's the 9th of July 2019. I've moved. I'm finally actually settled into my new place and I'm really enjoying it. Just after I moved I got quite busy, which has been awesome. So I thought you guys deserved a video, and I was getting a bit of a YouTube longing to get back in the game and start uploading again, so here I am. Today is a bit of a weird one. I want to talk about basically room correction and what you can do to try and, some of us aren't always working in the best rooms. For myself, I plan to kind of treat my last flat, but I then had to move, which meant that I didn't basically have time to do that. And kind of working on projects while moving between two flats. I mean, the day I moved in here, I had a gig I had to pitch forward for a trailer, and it was a case of I'm not even used to the room, so I kind of implemented, I got my old ARK system out from IK Multimedia and basically measured the room, and I found it really helped me put that pitch together and kind of kept me in the game. So if you're not working in ideal rooms, which a lot of us don't, and we move around a lot, if you haven't kind of like treated the room yet, or there's still some issues you think in your room and you're not getting the flattest response from your speakers within the space you're working, I think this is something that can work quite well for you. So I'll give you a quick look at the room now so that you guys who are following me can see the room I'm going to be working in, and then I'll basically show you through the process that I took and show you the curvature to this room within the EQ that it took. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. All right. Okay, so this is basically the room that I'm currently working in. If we enter it, as you can see, it's long. There is no treatment anywhere. We've got these big black kind of cabinets either side of the room, which will absorb and reflect some of the sound away from where we're going. Blade Runner poster there had to happen. But there's no treatment in any of the corners of the room. I have wooden floors, which of course are going to cause problems. If I had carpets, that would be much better, but I don't. So I'm looking at putting basically a rug in to this place so that it can sort of absorb some of that sound, and some kind of treatment on that back wall. Maybe even like what I did think about doing was getting like a massive foam pad and printing some artwork on it, just so that to put on top of the pad, just so it looks quite nice and hopefully blanks the reflections. That is the product that I bought a long time ago from IK Multimedia. Look at that, now in 64-bit. You can see how long ago it was that I bought that. It came with ARK 1 software. I've now bought ARK 2 software, which is a lot more advanced, and all I really used from here was the microphone, which you can see this guy here basically. So it's just basically a condenser. You need your 48 volts, and that's going to take your room measurements from various different listening positions, which I'll talk you guys through. So this is my working room for anyone who's been following my YouTube channel and my blogs from kind of day one. I'm now here, so this is Studio 4. All my old sample libraries up there from mostly from East West, BFD2, Contact, whatever else. So yeah guys, let's jump in now to the computer basically, and I'll show you what I did to try and fix this problem I'm currently having, and show you the curvature of the room. I'll just give you another, if I go from behind the table, it just gives you an idea of the back of the room. So as you can see there, it's a big room. It's nice, it's been nice to have some space, but there are some issues. Alright guys, I'll see you on the computer shortly. And just like that, guys, we're in Pro Tools. So this is the first video I'm doing with you guys in a new flat back in Pro Tools. So it probably looks shit because I've got all these LED strips on the back of the monitors and I've just banged the camera up. But it's a work in progress. We do it right the rustic ways that we do. So you should be able to actually hear what happens here, because although you're not actually in the room that I'm in, so for me, it's quite profound, the difference when you turn this ARK plugin on. So right, this is basically what the plugin looks like, guys. So once it goes through and takes all the measurements of the room, which I'll run you through very briefly, but I don't really want this to be almost like a tutorial in how you do it, because there are very kind of comprehensive instructions out there for that. But if you look at this is bad. I mean, this is like wow. If the yellow or the orange line there is kind of before, so that's kind of how the room was. Even in the configuration with me trying to place the speakers and everything in the best way I possibly can. Look at that there, in the 200 range especially, and it's interesting that it's that's just swipes telling me to do some work. Slight side note there, swipes is a call out, by the way, guys. You can literally schedule things you should be doing in your day in there, and it will shout at you like it just did if you haven't done something. Anyway, oh, it's shouting at me and my watch as well. Anyway, and it's interesting that it should be really peaking up there at that 200 hertz range, because I just mixed a track for it's just a cue called Revenge is Sweet, which I released on iTunes, and I was really struggling with the kind of the you know, the piano parts, the lower piano parts. A lot of my music tends to have quite kind of like, you know, sort of second to third octave piano notes in the root notes, like almost as like a bass guitar, I suppose, in many ways. And yeah, it just was driving me nuts. I was listening to it on all different sorts of frequencies and all different kind of like locations. And in the end, I had to amp it down, in the sense that, you know, from my listening position, when I was actually mixing the cue, it sounded like the pianos weren't present enough. But when you actually went and listened to it in a car, or if I put it on my HomePod or listen to it through headphones, it sounded fine. So that's kind of what I went with, and that, I suppose, that's where there's you know, there's wealth in buying different sets of headphones. I've got 3 connected to the computer, and I have various sort of Bluetooth speakers ranging from mid-end to rubbish to whatever else, and car, and I've Apple EarPods, and I've got the Bose Sound Sports. You should definitely listen to your music on lots of different platforms, as we know. And that's what I did up until basically introducing this. So if the before is basically the orange line, then we've got after, where it's actually bumped the curvature down there, sort of slightly lower, which is fine. But it's trying to, you know, the target is to be as flat as possible in the room. So that's what it's tried to apply. So if we basically take the plugin out of the equation, so I'm going to bypass the plugin, and I'll play you this cue. It's quite short. Now that sounded really boomy to me, where I'm kind of sitting. But if I put the plugin back in, so this is now with the ARK correction on. To me, it sounds a lot more balanced. What is interesting to note is that you have got volume controls within ARK. So if you go down to this monitor section, you've got a level in, and you've got a volume, and you've got trim as well. I'd be very careful of this, because you're going to be turning this plugin off. So, you know, when you actually bounce in the track out that you've mixed, you don't want this plugin to be on, because obviously you don't want to apply all those room corrections to everyone's room, because not everyone's in my room. So this leveler here is going in at minus 15 dB. You know, you might want to, let's play around with that a little bit. And I'm talking complete rubbish because dim's off. So if dim was on, you'd be there. And then when you bounce the track with it off, you'd be there. So yeah, be careful that you haven't got anything, you know, you don't. This is literally a plugin for your room. So when you're mixing and when you're composing and whatever, mainly when you're mixing and mastering, you're not going to want it on when you're bouncing the track out to, you know, to, in my case, to pitch or to send over to someone, or put as an album. So be careful that you haven't left anything on. But yeah, to me, if I had this up and running, you know, when I first kind of got going here, it would have really helped me through those initial pitches. You know, luckily I managed to actually get this set up in the last sort of week, and it's helped me out sort of moving forward. But I think this is a really good way of you basically doing this to get a rubbish room fixed, basically. If I bring you over to a little bit of kind of how it works, I chose this example 1 to set it up. So as you probably saw, what I'll do is I'll put a little time lapse. I took a time lapse of me basically taking the measurements before, and I'll show you what I did. So what you really want to do is find out where your listening position is, get that microphone set at the correct level, and then you take all these 14 measurements you take from around where you're sitting, and from that it sends us basically a sine wave sweep out, and it just determines where, what it's sending out from the speaker versus what it's picking up by the mic. And then I suppose it uses algorithms to apply that to an EQ, which you then can add as a plugin on your master bus. So I did this one, but there are various depending on how your situation is. I do mixes here, and that's probably. I mean, I'm not in such a big sort of space as this is showing us. So if I had 2 people sitting here, we'd be roughly in the sweet spot. Just slightly left and slightly right. But this manual comes from I'd recommend the IK Media one. I know there are other companies who are doing basically the same thing. Is it SonarWorks or Sound? I think it's SonarWorks, which is probably maybe like a company that's doing this like later than IK Multimedia did. It uses the Odyssey kind of technologies, I suppose, which I think they're putting into a lot of modern cinemas and home sound systems, where basically as you're watching a film. And I've got a really old Yamaha from '95 Pro Logic system, which I'm not changing because it's great. But you find that if a film's mixed slightly, I don't want to say wrong, but if it's mixed kind of more in the sort of, I was watching Avengers, the first one, they had this really kind of like drony, almost like 400 hertz, just constant drone. And it was driving me nuts. The whole room's just got this noding drone, and this would sort that out. It would realise that shouldn't be there. So yeah, Odyssey, I suppose, has started in the cinema and the home theatre world, and now it's sort of coming in through different companies to be used here. But yeah, that's basically what I've done in this room until I can start treating it. What I might do that might be interesting is when I manage to actually apply some treatment to this room, I'll take the measurements again, and we'll do a snapshot side by side. If I do it now, if I take a screenshot of that now, I'll know then for what it was before I put the treatment in. And I suppose you could use it as a way of helping you determine what treatment you need. If you buy a bunch of acoustic foam and bass traps and things, and you place it in your room, then you take these measurements. You can take as many measurements as you want. I've just got the one in here. But I think it gives you it helps you to almost treat the room if you can't necessarily always do it by ear. Things like this are useful, I suppose. You've got different monitoring for different things. So if you've got, say, desktop speakers here, what that basically does is it applies a target curve for you. So now when you play the music, kind of gives you an idea of what it might sound like on desktop speakers, or what it might sound like on, say, laptop speakers. It's absolutely zero bass, and then flat, of course. So that's like an extra thing they've put in this particular plugin. I mean, I don't want to say that ARK is the way to go for my IK Multimedia, and that's where its sound works is wrong, but for me it's worked. Another thing that I'll talk about really quickly, if you do happen to use T-Rex, then I would 100% recommend that you use ARK 2, because when you launch the standalone T-Rex version, let's go CS, it basically can bring ARK into it. So you've got this button down here for ARK. So while you're mastering, if you're not within a DAW, you can still use that correction. So I've kind of moved now to doing a lot of my mastering outside of my DAW. I do it literally in T-Rex on its own. I opened there the later version, which I'm still playing with. I still used CS3 or Custom Shop, as they call it, the first one from there. So that is, to me, is really useful, that you can literally plug, activate and deactivate, and turn on ARK from within your mastering software. It just gives you that control there as well. So I hope that was useful. And please let me know what rooms you're working in. You know, this has been like a new thing for me. I've moved around a lot in the past, but you know, having to kind of move that quickly while still trying to pitch and still trying to maintain quality cues that you're hoping to get placed was a little bit of a traumatic experience. So the ARK system came out again. So all right, guys, I won't ramble too much longer, but I hope you're all well. Please send me a message on Twitter, MW Bell Music, all that, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, guys, see you later. Bye.